All right, so for this session, it'll be divided up between myself, Jill Powell, and Liam McEwan. We're going to talk about some more sort of traditional library resources, and you've been spending most of yesterday and today on writing your own research. This will be maybe more about how you would find research within the library. And we tell this session $2.5 million a year worth of information at fingertips, and that's pretty accurate. That's what it costs to sort of stock the three libraries in our cluster: engineering, mathematics, physical sciences. And that those resources are available to you on a subscription basis, and you should spend your hard-earned tuition dollars, so to speak, or certainly those of your funders, while accessing these while you're here. So we're going to be dividing this up and demonstrating some of these resources directly, and I'll let Jill Powell start right now.
Great, thank you. So Jeremy sort of answered the first question here, which is why is it $2.5 million? There's three selectors here representing chemistry, engineering, and then Henrik does physics, astronomy, and mathematics. And it is a lot of money. And since you're paying tuition or you're having grant-funded research, you might as well take advantage of that and utilize this resources while you can, because we do have alumni and people outside of Cornell that are begging to get into these resources, and they can't access them because you lose access when you graduate. Now, you may go to a company or you may go to another university where you can access it, and then that's great, but you just never know. There's no guarantees, and we have a lot of rich resources, and we want to make sure that you're aware of them. So I'm going to discuss some of the resources. We've divided this up, but I'll let you read through here the items that I'm going to, I'm a kind of a fan of not reading the slides. So I sort of put things up there and then figure out that you're going to read them. But these are the things that I'm going to be covering: is passkey dissertations, the big publishers, including SPIE. And that stands for Society of Photo Instrumentation Engineers. So not all of you would be interested in that, but I wanted to make, at least bring it up, and I have one slide about it. So this particular slide here, it has maybe, well, I'll guess 30 resources on it. Are any of these familiar to you? Can you shout out one that you may regularly use? It looks familiar. Yes, in the back. Scopus, okay. Another one? Web of Science, good. You? ACM, good. Okay, so there's a lot of them here, and I'm glad to hear that some of you are using these, because these do cost us a lot of money to subscribe to. But it's very possible that you're going to discover new ones today, and that's would be great if you could discover something new that's going to be really valuable for your research. And these cover all sorts of different subject areas, so that's why we have them listed up here. Now, a question I've gotten, because I looked at my feedback from previous sessions, and someone said, can I search all those databases in one place? Can I search them all in Google, for example? And the answer is no, not really. You can search a lot of them through our library interface. If you go through Google, you're bound to hit paywalls. You can go through our library interface, but even this doesn't have them all. SciFinder is not included in this. They're not going to contribute their data to this, but some of them do. So this is a good place to go to. And this is just showing you an example. I got this as a real question I got. Someone was looking for this thesis called Flow over Wavy Surfaces. They put it into Google. We all love Google, but they hit this paywall. It says the file's restricted. So what do I do next? Well, if you search this through our catalog and just library.cornell.edu in the big box, this isn't the best interface in the world, but if I had scrolled through here, I'd actually find the dissertation I'm looking for, even though it's at the University of Illinois. Actually finds it and gives you the link to the full text. And the reason why it's useful to go through the library catalog this way is because it's authenticating you. It's saying, who are you? You put in your Cornell Net ID and password. It accepts that. It allows you then to access the $2.5 million worth of information, and then you can download the PDF of this thesis. So then it would have been a much quicker process. So the takeaway from this is, if you're in Google and you hit a paywall, try going into the library catalog, or use a resource called Passkey. Oh, good. Guess when the slide was going to come up. Passkey is a bookmarklet that allows you to put in it asks for your credentials, your Cornell credentials, so then you can access these resources. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but we get a lot of good feedback on this. So if you've never heard of Passkey, you definitely want to write that one down and check it out. And the screen is actually showing how you install it. You just take this and drag it up to the toolbar of your browser. This is our engineering library webpage. So all of us have web pages, and the 3 libraries that we're representing here also typically put the top used databases on the front pages. So if you leave today and then a week from today you're saying, gee, I want to use one of those databases they're talking about, but I don't even remember what it's called, it's likely that it's going to be listed on our web pages. We have down below there, I have a link to more engineering databases. We have like a database A to Z list, and this lists like 60 databases that are frequently important for this area, and some of them can be rather used less often, like binary phase alloy diagrams or something like that. But they'll be on this page with short descriptions so that you can find them. I wanted to mention the important, a couple of important libraries that we have, publishers, because we spend a lot of money on these resources, and they have a lot of really good peer-reviewed scholarly information. Wiley and I forget the other ones that I'm going to cover here. We go to this. Oh, and Springer. They have full text PDF of not only the journals, but the books as well. So if you're looking for a book, maybe you're teaching a class and the students are saying, you know, I don't want to pay for the textbook anymore. If you can find a book through one of these online publishers where we've already entered into contracts and we're spending a lot of money annually with them, then this will make everybody's life a lot easier. So I'm just showing you the front page, the sample search for blockchain, but it has not only, oh, it actually says 1,600 journals, 21,000 online books that you could access through here. Springer is the second one that I wanted to mention. Again, it's a huge contract that we have with them. We're spending lots of money, but it's very easy to download the books here. They don't make any restrictions as long as you're Cornell affiliated. And then another one I wanted to mention was SPIE. This is the largest collection of optics and photonics research. And I know that there's some people here from AEP department, and so that they are strong users, as well as astronomy is a strong user of this collection. Probably 1,000 conference proceedings are in here or more. I'm also tasked to talk to you about patent searching. And patent searching is really important because at one point, someone quoted to me a figure like 80% of technical information is hidden in a patent. If you work for a company, they may be pushing you to apply for patents, but then you don't have the necessary push to publish at the same time. So all that information is not being discoverable in the journals, but it's in a patents database, and that information is publicly available to you. So I'm kind of advocating that in addition to searching these databases that you see today, you also look for patents, because they can be very lengthy, they have lots of diagrams in them, and they have what is almost proprietary information in there from various companies. This is just showing you a search in the Google patent database. You can search it by assignee, which is the company name, as well as by an inventor name. They have all the patents from 1790 to the present for the US, and they have world and European patents in here as well. This is showing, they have the applications in here, and you can download the PDF. And then another resource we have that I wanted to show a screen for is Derwent. So Derwent Innovation Index has all the US and foreign patents in it. They have 2 features which are really nice. One is that they have the ability to sort by time cited. So I have here a search for rechargeable batteries, and I'm sorting it by time cited so that the top patent at the top of the list is cited over 1,000 times, it might be one way for you to look at and consult a few patents. Because typically, I think there's like 9 million US patents. If you put in a subject like lithium batteries, you're going to get a lot of results. And so it's one way to help sort them. The second unique feature about Derwent is it has enhanced titles here. So the real title for this is Rechargeable Spinal Cord Stimulator System. But what if I didn't think to put in those keywords? What if I put insertion needle or tunneling tools? They've actually made the title really long and descriptive to aid you in being able to find the patent that you're looking for. That's kind of a unique thing that they've added. Okay, so I'm done here, and next up is Jeremy.
So what I'm going to do is sort of leave this and just demonstrate a few things. Some of these, I apologize, might be already familiar to you. You may have used them heavily before, but either I'll show you a new feature, hopefully, or perhaps I will show you an entirely new resource. So all these links exist on the LibGuide for the course you're in right now. I won't go over all of them, but I'll go over a few. Let me hit up one right now. So this is probably familiar to most of you. Web of Knowledge, Web of Science, it incorporates a variety of sub-databases in there, including, as Jill said, Derwent, Innovations Index, and there's a few other ones. Yeah, you can see it's down here as one of the choices. But if you are searching the Web of Science core collection, I showed this briefly yesterday. It's a database of citations to which we then plug in our subscriptions. We get this as a blank sort of set that indexes many journal titles and their metadata, which is to say the individual articles, their authors, their subject areas, and the abstracts thereof, and the full text is a separate sort of plugin we have. And you've almost certainly done this before, but just to demonstrate how it works, again, this is always my sample search. And the crucial sort of value add with science is that it gives you the citation information on there. Just this thing right here you'd think would be more common, but actually it's still almost a unique function of Web of Science, with the other exception of Scopus. Re-rank by this. It takes a while. All right, so here you go. And it shows time cited. You should not rely on that as being necessarily a definitive measurement of how high quality something is or how influential it is. It could be a factor of how long it's been in print, or just the idiosyncrasies of a author, plus the fact that like a review article would be much more highly cited than will anything else, just because, as you heard yesterday, people will get lazy and rely on review articles as the basis of their citation for other things out there, which just to say you shouldn't do that, but it can be an artifact in searching. Yeah, and you actually can see some of this here. So it actually goes back to, it looks 5 years back, and then in the past 6 months. Number of counts in there. That's a new feature that they got. And you can also sort of go backwards and forwards in time. You can see these citations if you're interested. It's not. There you go. If you want to get to this list, now you've just seen the 64. I think it subtracts out the self sites. So we're missing one. It goes from 64 to 63. I don't know what the one difference in there is. Could be one journal that's not actually cited, indexed by Web of Science. This is what I mentioned yesterday, that every journal that's out there represents a choice that they've made, saying like, we're going to index this, but not that, based on some criteria of popularity or influential or influence or peer review or some other criteria. And then, as I say, you can also go backward in time, so to speak, by looking at this article's cited references. So here we go. Actually, this has a relatively, okay, so you can look at this as being a ratio. This cited 10 papers and was cited by 64 more. So that's an interesting idea. Like, okay, so this paper itself was a relatively small piece of science, but it's gone on to become the basis of a lot of other writing, particularly since it came out, a while ago, 91. So, and you can see these as well. And of course, you can track even further forward. You can find the most recent cited article in here that it cites, that is cited by it. That it cites, I'm sorry, and resort this by this. So this was cited most recently just 2 months ago. So it's still very much a going concern, this one paper. And that can be useful. This is often something that I direct new graduate students to because they are asked by their professor, you know, okay, read up on the field. If they're lucky, they'll receive a list of quick papers saying, okay, you know, read this one, and this one. As Professor Hoffman said yesterday, he'll start forwarding papers to people, and if it gets more than 2 or 3 of those, it can be a sign to you that you aren't reading enough. But if you want to sort of follow the research forward, you can find sort of the seminal paper in that field and then use these things here to sort of hop forward and say, okay, what is the most current paper? What was the first one to cite it? There is a function here. I'm not going to use it right now because it actually takes a while to load. It requires so much energy, which is actually, it develops a sort of citation molecule where actually it develops a thing you can rotate around and actually look at the past cited references and the new ones there. And if it goes out like 2 generations, it becomes really huge for an even halfway influential paper. As I mentioned, by the way, when we get this, it's just, should back up to the actual view. So when we get this Web of Science itself, usually it just will include this information right here, minus, you know, where it says get at Cornell and then full text from publisher. Either of those represent means by which you can get, you know, as it says, the full text. Full text means what it says it means. Get at Cornell might just mean that there is an additional step you must take in order to get access to something. It might just take you through to the full text. Get at Cornell could not find, but then you can do something like search by ISSN, and it will say, oh yeah, we have this old journal in print at the library annex out on Palm Road or something, and we can get a scan for you within 12 hours or so. Or you can ask for help, submit a request if we don't have it. We'll usually find a way to get almost anything out there. These are all described as databases, but that term is sort of an overly broadly applied list. Some of these are databases in the sense that they are, as I say, indices of articles, but others of them include different kinds of content. Web of Science definitely counts as database, as does this one up here that I'll show you. It's just near and dear to my own heart because it is sort of the seminal database in engineering from most fields. Engineering Village includes most of the same sort of coverage. Oh, it's not loading. Oh, there we go. All right. It's actually a federated search of at least 2 databases. You can see here Compendex and Inspec, plus this thing here, Novel, which we'll get to in a minute. But that is a, wow, what's going on here? Oh, I see. They've rejiggered the index here a little bit. Okay, so again, you can search for this in here, or I'll just leave new. This is the technology that allows you to pay by phone. This has most of what you would also find in Web of Science or something like Scopus, a general index, but it does not have most of the features having to do with citation analysis. It doesn't include that ranking of citation times. You can look only backwards, not forward. But again, you're looking at most of the same article level metadata that you are in those other databases. There are related documents here, but it's not forward citation. It's perfectly applied. There you go. The abstracts tend to be a little bit longer. There are these various collections of terms down the bottom, and they can be differentially more or less useful. You can see the ones that are applied by Inspec there versus the uncontrolled term, which is the one usually just chosen by the abstractor, that person. And then these classification codes down here. So this can be a way to search for more articles that are related to this one, but I find they tend to be either too specific or too broad. And plus they have, in many cases, overlapping. So the same term down here may allow you to, you'll get the same article over and over again by using these. So it's not as much of a refinement as you might hope. So let's go back here for a second. Just to provide an example of something that is a little bit less precise of a term for database, IEEE Explorer. It has many journals that it indexes in the IEEE field, IEEE company. It also indexes IET stuff, but then also all of their conference proceedings, all of their ebooks, and then all of the IEEE standards, which I'll get to in a minute. and it will present them all to you in sort of a federated search view. Let's try something again here. Let's do again near-field communication. This is, by the way, also a good source for computer scientists. You don't have to be an electrical to actually care about this. Yeah. All right, there we go. And you can see it's actually breaking out the content type for you at the very top here. And of course, now we have these requirements to accept cookies. All right. And I do believe we have a complete subscription to this, so everything will be unlocked there on that side. You can narrow it down with these expandable menus on this side, which is, I should say, also available in those other databases as well. This could be a case where if you're looking up a research group you want to join as a postdoc or move on from Cornell, you could actually look up, okay, so this is the key publication for such and such a research group or lab. What else have they put out there? What are the affiliations? What else is going on at, for instance, ISAF University in Turkey or other places? It tends to prefer a plurality view, so it'll put the largest number first, but that in itself is useful information. And it'll give you the PDF, the full text view via PDF in here. So as I said, that's a source of technical standards. That's also a gateway into a huge other topic. We often get requests for standards. How we get to those varies. Let's see, where's our standards guide? Down here? Oh yeah, okay. All right. Actually, I'm gonna go to this right now. I made this separate guide for technical standards. It's getting a little on in time. I might need to refine it soon. Some standards are made available to us in different ways. The best case scenario is something like ASTM up here, or as I just showed you, IEEE, where we have one complete body of standards for that entire publisher, or SDO, Standards Development Organization, Standards Developing Organization. And then we can use those as a way, and they present us with a nice, clean institutional product that we can get access to and serve up to you, the users. In other cases, we can get access to standards for free if they're made available from a source like, for example, the military. NFPA, that's sort of an asterisk where you can get access to that for free, but you can read it online, but you can't actually get access. You can't download it easily. You have to create a profile first. But then there are standards like from organizations like ANSI, American National Standards Institute, or ISO. Isn't on here. ISO, you're right, it is.
ISO's placed somewhere else.
Yeah, it's down on ISO. These are organizations that have just too many standards to be practical to buy one product, or at least they haven't made it available to us in a practical way. So what we can do in those cases, in most situations, is that if someone wants a standard from those, we can get it for you individually. We'll order one copy and get it usually in hard copy because they tend to watermark all their electronic standards, and we can't host the PDF. The PDF will come with DRM software attached to it, and we can't do things like email it or share it, things like that. But certainly, if you want to get one, we'll find a way to get you a copy in some kind of format. If you can wait a week or two for us to receive one by mail, that's always helpful. And we have some stuff in older formats like CD-ROM or on hard copy at the URIS library for things like the American Concrete Institute, things like that. Well, then of course there's some scenarios that live for free on their own online. So the example I sometimes give for that is ever curious. This is the, yeah, okay, so this is the library of standards that undergo the USB technology. 600 pages for the, mostly the software actually, it's not the physical profile of the device. All right. So those are a lot of resources you may want to use that we are happy to provide access to. I did want to hit one other thing here, which is, as Jill said, it's, your best course of action for anything you want to get to the library is to go via the library homepage and then find either a database within there or else go to the library page itself. Even things we have access to online, if you just go to the homepage for that database or that publisher, we'll try and paywall you out. It'll say, okay, just subscribe now or pay $30 and get access to this. Don't believe that, but also don't try and log in via those pages. It's not a case where we give out subscriptions information or lists of our current users to those publishers. In most cases, what we're doing is we are scripting all logins via the sort of branded login for Cornell. That one page you'll find where it's, the big red logo at the top and you put in the ID and password. But there is a case, where there is content available online. You've heard so much about open access publishing and repositories and all these other options for reserving your rights as an author. And one tool that's been developed in the past couple of years that is sort of spreading like wildfire is this thing Unpaywall. This is not a database per se. In fact, really it's just a Chrome plugin is what it is at root. What you do is you install it somewhere. I'm on Firefox right now, so it's not going to work for that purpose. But you install it as a regular plugin, and then anytime you're in a paper that is made available by open access via a variety of sources, this little icon up here, which is actually also their sort of master icon, will appear somewhere down the right-hand margin as an unlocked lock, and you can get access to it that way. It'll say like, okay, this article has been made available that way. And this has drawn attention from major publishers, including Elsevier and some others, who actually want to, make people aware of their content that's available in a individual open access option that way. Oh wait, just increase. I don't know if I believe that count. But it's a fun little tool that's out there now. It was developed by some folks working for a foundation. So that's always worth trying. It's always worth installing that on your own browser just to see if anything works that way. And that's a tool that'll be made available to you even after you leave Cornell. And that should be like my closing word, which is to say that all this information, the databases in particular, are almost entirely tied to your current enrollment at Cornell as a student, faculty, or staff member. When you leave, or if you go away on sabbatical or something, you're likely to lose access to it that way. So certainly try and take advantage of it now. Any questions about this? I know I went over a lot in a short time. Yes.
When you're trying to get access to these materials off campus, is there any VPN that's available that you can just get onto Cornell's network so it's automatically authenticated, or everything has to be done on a case-by-case basis?
That's what Jill mentioned about passkey.
I thought you said passkey didn't work in all cases.
It doesn't work. You're right. It doesn't work in all cases. It works in most cases. You can set up a VPN using the Cornell ID, and usually it'll prompt you for your net ID and password, and that'll get you in just fine. If it doesn't recognize you, or if you've set your browser settings such that it is not, it's extremely restrictive on retaining cookies, you may find a hard time logging in. But usually either passkey, or if you're willing to set up a VPN of your own, that works as well.
I've been told that VPN and passkey are two different things.
Right.
Yes, they are. That VPN is for getting into the Cornell network, but passkey is just for the library system and our subscriptions. So we have millions of dollars worth of information that we're paying for. Passkey is for the library.
Yeah,
so
just a little bookmark that rescripts for our proxy service.
Right.
It's just one server, whereas a VPN allows you to. Yeah, it is possible to set up.
Okay. Previously I was using the manual proxy, so that's what passkey does.
No, it's something
proxy.
different.
Yeah, it's our proxy server, so it's a kind of a miniature VPN just for the proxy.
Just for library
What
resources.
the library is,
Right.
yeah, which is what Jill's saying. You can, there are cases where people have remote desktop and stuff too, but that's.
Right. I mean, the two cases that might come up is either you're somewhere you have not yet, and you're somewhere outside of Cornell and are not being recognized for some reason, in which case it's worth examining your own browser settings, or if there's local restrictions of some kind. The other cases where, in some cases, folks who have brought a new device, the first time you got a computer and brought it onto Cornell's network, it hasn't recognized you yet as being a user, and that will be a great time to use this as a first case solution that way.
So when you access the resources through the internet here, they actually permanently put you in your browser, and then it prompts you for your login if you're off campus.
I'm not sure about that. You need to check with IT about that. But some folks have labored for even years under the idea that they can't get access to things when they're off campus. Want to say, no, there are solutions.
Sean might be able to answer that question.
Yeah.
Sean? Sorry, why don't you repeat your question to him, because he's our IT person.
So, like, what exactly is like the mechanism? Like, if I'm here, like, using a computer, getting resources through the Wi-Fi, and then I take my computer someplace else, is there a cookie in my browser that notifies the publisher that they should prompt me for a Cornell login?
Yeah, I think it would be.
So his original question was, we're trying to get at the difference between VPN and passkey.
I'm not super familiar with passkey, but it is for specific sites.
Well, no. I just don't have the technical language.
There's almost always a solution. Get in touch with one of us is a short
Yeah,
answer,
email
and we'll find a solution for you that way. Yeah, it might not be on a case-by-case basis. That's right. I should also tell you that probably sometime in the next maybe year or two, you may start encountering dual-factor authentication, where it'll start requiring you to either carry a little keychain dongle, which gives you a momentary key to use, or you can get something like a text on your phone or a brief phone call where you answer with a single key press, in addition to your regular login, and that's just meant to further back up the authentication process, mostly to try and circumvent people who are batch downloading large amounts of stuff illegally using stolen credentials. So yeah. Any other questions?
The only other case I'm familiar with is actually if you're on the Med campus, where researchers on the Med campus come up here. Sometimes there's conflicts because not all of our contracts cover both campuses. It's a little bit weird, but yeah, that's a case by case basis.
I'll go big screen because I have very busy slides. All right, so I am the chemistry librarian, as I've said before, and we're going to look at a few more chemistry-specific things, but these would cover really anyone who's working with molecular information, materials, properties, all of this. So I don't know how many of you might somehow in your research touch in this area, but it's only taking 10 minutes of your time, so hopefully not a complete waste. And chemistry is a pretty information-heavy field. Lots of tools available for this type of information, both molecular level information and then kind of more property and materials level information. So I'm just showing a couple of things here, but we have, I don't know, 50 or 60 resources just for searching in this area generally. So how many people have used SciFinder? Okay, great. And there are others. So in chemistry, we've been using this word database pretty loosely. Most of the ones that we've looked at so far in this session have been abstracting and indexing services for articles or other text. Most of the chemistry databases actually have quite a lot of data in them, both measured and predicted data. And SciFinder is no exception. There are other large databases. Reaxis might be another one you're familiar with. This one is sort of the gold standard of the literature in the sense that it covers, it indexes across over 10,000 journals in related fields across chemistry, 63 patent authorities. So this is probably the single most comprehensive one place you can search if you are interested in the patent area in chemistry or any molecular materials area. And they have quite a bit of, there's quite a bit of searching features around the patents. Any of you are looking for molecule patents related to molecular structures, there's a whole Marcouche searching option available that's pretty specialized around that. So it's got a lot of of features. This is an industry level tool. It supports the chemical industry, so it's a very competitive tool, and we're lucky to have access to the pretty sophisticated options that are in here. It's a huge database though, and the technology driving it is actually aging. So, and the policy in indexing this database is more is better. So you will always get lots of hits in SciFinder. So that's actually the problem with the database, is it's harder to refine. But it's probably the single best place to start to get the broadest sweep, if that's what you want to do. If you want to get a little more specific on certain properties or reaction information, there are probably other best choices. But for literature, patents, and kind of a starting point, this is probably it. You can see a lot of the searching options in here. Almost every paper is indexed by a structure or a formula of some kind. This is one of the few places that you can actually search pretty sophisticatedly with a lot of several different options for polymers. Very few places you can actually search for literature about polymers based on, we can do it by a molecular formula, monomer formula, or repeating units. There's a lot of special indexing in here on polymers, so that if you are a polymer person, this is definitely a good database to be in. More and more, they've been indexing that experimental information that's reported in the manuscript text. So there's now 7.6 billion property values that they've indexed out of literature. So that's hugely useful, I find, or increasingly useful. So any questions about SciFinder? My colleague at UPenn is probably the most expert chemistry librarian in the planet, Judith Carano, and she has a great guide, with all the screenshots on the how-to and all that stuff. So I almost always just refer to her. She's already done all the great work on that. This database, guess how much it costs us to get this database every year? I just love it. Take a guess. 200,000. Oh wow, Jill. No, not quite that much. Cancel it tomorrow. So I think this is running at about 140,000, and we're an academic institution. It's probably 10 times more that for companies to get access, or you pay by the drink if you're like a small company. So definitely, this is a high-value database. I think Web of Science is probably like 160, something like that, 1,000. So this just gives you a feel for the value of this information. I think both Jill and Jeremy mentioned novel. We have tens and tens and tens of thousands of ebooks in addition to the journals, as Jill mentioned, which is great because we're really filling out the digital space in our libraries, and Jill showed a lot of different ways you can search across them. This one is primarily a collection of thousands of handbooks in our fields. And what they've done is they have taken that extra step in a lot of these handbooks and pulled out the data into these interactive graphs. So it's not just shooting you back, a PDF of the page where the property data you want shows up. They've actually pulled out graphs on it. So this gives you a lot more textual searching across all of these handbooks. These handbooks used to be in our library, and Jill and I have been around long enough that we had, reams and reams of these handbooks, and it was a lot more work for us actually to be finding information in these things. So this has been a great tool from our perspective. I think a lot of this data is sourced from the literature. I think also a lot of it is sourced from industry. So this is a great compilation of industry level property data for materials. Great resource, one of a kind, really, pretty much. So here's an example of one of those interactive graphs. This is the graph as it was recorded in the document, but then you can kind of scan over and pick out key points that may be of interest to you and catch those in a file. You can pull that down. You can pull that down as a CSV. You can pull it down as a JSON format. Do whatever you want with it. Add your data into it and build it all in there. So this is definitely a real data collection in a sense. Here's some of the subject areas that are covered. So lots of applications oriented, mostly applications oriented actually. Everything from the classic civil engineering sort of mechanical things all the way to textiles and food science, sustainability, everything. So this is a one-of-a-kind resource novel. They did just add in a bunch of sources from NIST. NIST has a lot of materials resource laboratories. The data that NIST compiles is not only collected from the literature, but they critically evaluate it. So they give a lot of all of that data comes with tolerances, and that's what the engineering community primarily uses because they can incorporate those tolerances into there. So that's another really rich data source behind here, as well as all of these more commercial handbooks. Any questions on novel? I don't know, that's probably really pricey if you were in industry to have this, I would think.
Yeah.
Because this is really high value for industry. I put just a whole slew of these resources up here. These are all data collections. These are all data. All of these data sources, with the exception of this one, are all, and then there's Crystal Makers as a visualizing software, but the others are actually literally pulled from the literature. These two, this one and this one, are pulled from the literature manually, put into these cute little software programs that were written by very dedicated scientists. Who told that story? Somebody was telling that story in this workshop, and it was like, yeah. Some of these databases have just now gone from the CD format to web, sort of. So we definitely have a lot of these types of specialized collections in chemistry. So this has been part of my world. I really would like to see a lot of automated collection of data. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't have to
So,
cancel it?
We do have budget challenges in the library, and we've been having to cancel for many years. So our collections have been shrinking. Springer Materials is on the watch list. It's a great database. Landholt Bornstein is behind here. This is probably the longest, oldest collection of materials properties everywhere. Really broad collection, over 100 years of data collected about materials. Unfortunately, it's just really, really expensive. And we just can't afford it, but it's stuck in a contract, so I think we have it through 2020. So I thought I'd put it up here because you get another year and 2 years on it. So on the flip side, NIST, MatNavi, SDBS, these are all SolveDB. These are data government resources. This is mostly government laboratory data that is in the public domain. These two are from Japan. Pretty high quality data collection there. This one, know-it-all, these are reference spectra, so these are extremely high quality spectra of all kinds of materials, including a lot of refinery-based things. They also compile into here a lot of databases that are used in like crime labs for forensics, and it's all compiled as high quality reference data. So if you have a lot of unknowns, mixtures, samples, you can run it against this. If you have all of these come with software with advanced features in it, so you can download the software that goes with this and dump in your peaks, and it will do an analysis across, the 1.4 million reference spectra that are in there and help you analyze what might be, what the composition might be of your sample. So it's a great tool for that. So yeah, all of these come with analysis software, so it's not just the data in it as well. Any questions about these? So we do go well beyond the literature in our resources. Here's another example. Who here needs to draw molecules of any kind? I assume you already have your thumb draw. If anyone else needs to draw molecules, there's also a lot of laboratory schematics and stuff in here. I've never used those features, but you could draw, schematics for your posters. It is really high quality. We happen to have a site license for this software, so you can pull it down. I just wanted to let you guys know that's available for anyone who needs to do that. We're trying to launch a new website.
I checked just the other day and it wasn't there yet.
Yeah, I think it was live as of today, but it doesn't quite look right. It's one of those things. So I just popped up the coming soon. One of the things we did just learn is our little shortcut URL does not work. Will not work. So it's physicalsciences.library.cornell.edu when it comes. I think we're going to be fleshing it out, right, Henrik? We put a lot of placeholder stuff in there because we are the first library to use this new blog-based.
WordPress?
It is WordPress. I'm not thrilled about it, but anyway, eventually all of our content that we've been reviewing will be on there, and I think we're trying to use some of the BlogPress tagging and stuff like that, so that you can pull out all those software things if you want to, things like that. Molecular information, property data, synthesis information. I'm trying to tag them all up. So we have a lot of specialized type of stuff in chemistry. Is there any? Okay. I was also, this is not part of the $2.5 million. This is another free resource. For those of you who haven't explored many of the information resources coming out of the National Library of Medicine, that's fabulous. Pubmed is the literature database there. They also have tons and tons of bioinformatics resources of all kinds of medical databases, toxicology information. Most of it government sourced, but they also compile data out of the literature into a lot of those resources. A lot of specialists right at the library, with degrees in their field who are managing those high-level information sources, and this is all really available. So Pubmed is probably the best indexed resource, one of the best indexed resources out there. So I just put in MRI, 3 letters, and it knows that I was looking for magnetic resonance imaging. It brings up the medical subject headings, which is probably the most curated metadata collection for medical terminology ever. And a lot of these the mesh terms are available through an API, and a lot of places are using these to try to classify their own data schema and things like that. So it knows how to build these comprehensive searches. This is actually the search that's being run. I didn't have to type all of that stuff in. So that's kind of a nice feature. I did the drop-down thing there just to give you a sense of all the resources that are available through Pubmed. So I know some of these fields do tap into the medical areas a bit with some of the applications of your research. Digging a little bit more into those subject headings, MRI cross-links with the spectroscopy, and you can see sort of under the diagnostic techniques, you can see both a lot of the analytical scientific stuff as well as the sort of more therapeutic applications, diagnostic stuff. So I just wanted to point that out, that there's a lot of technical stuff indexed in Pubmed. It's not just clinical bedside manner and things like that. It is a very technical database. I didn't show it here because I had any questions on this? Did you? Yeah. Okay. And it's very indexed. I mean, it's very granulated, the indexing, with a lot of terminology in it. And again, all of the various word forms and phraseology that you could think of is all pre-scripted in here, so that you don't have to be thinking about all of the alternative terms. They're all here, and they'll all be included in your search. I didn't include it here because I was going to include it in the earlier talk. I don't feel like opening it now. But another part of the National Library of Medicine, NCBI's resource bank, is Pubchem, which is the chemical view on the world of medicine. But for anyone who's needing to pull molecular data in a machine-readable form, that's probably the best open source to get structures, chemical structures. So I did just want to mention that. All of those are programmatically accessible. Machine-readable structures, smiles, entries, all the synonyms, cast numbers, all this kind of stuff is great. So Pubchem, they have a REST API interface that's pretty sophisticated. A lot of properties that you could pull down. So
is that pubchem.org, or how do you get there?
Whatever, but just Google Pubchem.
Okay, sure.
If you Google the name of any compound, Pubchem is going to be in the top 3 hits anyway. So that's the largest free source. They do pull in. It's primarily government-based data. They do pull, I mean, they do have some depositors that are coming out of the informatics community, so some of the data in there may not be as rigorous, I guess, as it hasn't really been peer-reviewed data. But it's easy to sort through that if that's important to you. If you want it vetted, only vetted data from that source. But it's a great, Pubchem's a great source for that, for structures. All right. That was all I was going to say about chemistry, unless people want to dying to hear more. I could talk about chemistry all day.
Do you have any questions about what the three of us have spoken about? If you have any questions about the databases, things we put up there? Yes.
Like, so all this reply the
You have to be a current Cornell person, so current Cornell grad student, faculty, staff. Yes. And then if you are a current Cornell person, you can access all this stuff that we have. Now, that said, we have had to cancel things. We've had challenging budgets, and we haven't been getting budget increases in quite a while. So it's possible something could disappear, like Springer Materials or Scopus. 2020 is when these are up for renewal. So, but anytime you come across something and you can't access it, let us know, because it's possible that you do have access, and maybe the bill didn't get paid on time, or maybe we can investigate it and they've made a mistake on the publisher end. So don't hesitate to ask us. It's totally within your rights to ask. And then if we don't have it, we can do interlibrary loan.
Because minor outages happen all the time. Like, we have thousands of subscriptions, and license servers go on and off, and there's momentary bugs, and invoices get misshuffled and coffee is spilled all the time. So don't assume that if something is listed in our catalog or off a LibGuide or something and you can't get access to it, that we've canceled it or that subscription has lapsed. Just let us know, and we will dig into it. In many cases, we get these restored within a day or two with no problem. Or just yourself, just wait an hour or so and try it again, and it'll almost certainly work. So yes. And as I say, all the links that we just presented and much more are off of the LibGuide that we'll leave up, at least for the length of this semester, if not longer, off of this URL. It's supposed to be Engineering, Math, Physical Science. That's AMP's workshop. That was our original name for this workshop. Also, they're all available off of the library homepage, library.cornell.edu, which is also the place you should go to them. If you go, for example, to engineeringvillage.com, it may not actually recognize your credentials. Again, that's a case where you're not being given your proper due as a Cornell user.
Can you show them the feedback form?
Sure. Oh yeah, one more thing. We have one more session. We're gonna have sort of lunch, dessert, and then some extra coffee, and then one last session at the end of the day. But then one thing we asked you to do, there's the very last tab here at the very bottom where it says feedback survey. There's a feedback survey. We would love to know what you thought about this workshop, whether it was worth your time, and what do you think about it, and what we can improve in future years. So by all means, please click through this. We try to keep it as short as possible because nothing is worse than a long survey. It is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. Yeah, grand total of 5 questions. One of which is just check boxes. They're all freely free text field except for that one.
And then we have the print one.
Yes, and if you prefer to do it in print, you can do it over there as well. Not everyone wants to go online to this. Right there. So I think we'll break now for about, 30 minutes, and then we'll 15 minutes, and then we'll come back for our final session.
2:45 is the final session.
Right.
And if you feel inspired to come on like a 2-day versus 90 minutes, not that kind of press. Not always easy to put together these types of events, but spaces.
I'm also interested in your views on the working lunch that we had. So we didn't really give you a lunch hour, you notice. So let us know whether you like that, squeezing more speakers in and then leaving earlier, or rather we should have given more time.
All right.